podcast where we focus on helping you claim what's rightfully yours, your health and your freedom. We explore the three main areas of health: the physical realm, the biochemical realm, and the mental and emotional realm. We also explore all the areas of lifestyle we can find that will help you live more abundantly, regardless of where you're starting. And remember, in life, you'll either make excuses or create results. You choose. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, and I'm glad to be with you here today. Make sure to head on down to the show notes and click on the link to join our tribe of human-powered life heroes, where we'll update you on new shows, events, product launches, and so much more. Now, it's time to enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Powered Life Podcast. As usual, we have an amazing guest for you. And most of you know that I've been involved in fitness my whole life, and this guy is living it. This guy is like in the business of it. This guy is a master of, we'll say, the fitness, maybe and even business world. So Bryce Henson, welcome, brother. Good to have you here.
Dr. Josh, super pumped to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. So what I like to do, everybody knows we have our bio thrown in there, which is like our little snippet about you. But what I really like to get is like we talked about like before the recording, your origin story. Like, who is Bryce Henson? Who is this guy?
Totally. Well, I'll jump in. I mean, high level, give the cliff notes. I'm the CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp, which is an international fitness franchise, the fastest growing indoor fitness boot camp franchise on the planet. But that's all the accolades and all that. That really means nothing. I'm at the core, I'm a fitness coach. I'm a business coach. I'm just a normal dude that really had an incredible impact or experience with fitness that just changed my life. And my personal mission is to inspire fitness and change lives and really give back the gift of fitness that was given to me. So that kind of kicks it off high level. But to give you the origin story a little bit, and I'll kind of lay that foundation, you can prod me along. But I typically tell people I'm from the Midwest, which would be true. I grew up for about 11 years in the state of Michigan. But actually before that, I'm going to tell you a little tragedy to triumph story that I think will have some positive takeaways for your audience. So the first 10 years of my life, I actually grew up in the backwoods of Atlanta, Georgia. So I was a little guy, I used to talk like this when I was a little boy.
Love it. I wish you still talked like that.
The full Southern drawl and all. And that all said, I had a very, volatile childhood in many ways. And the reason that is my father was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic and he's addicted to gambling. Not necessarily the trifecta for a good family upbringing. So it was certainly volatile. And as the story goes, unfortunately, the verbal arguments led for many years, unfortunately, to a very physical argument or physical experience where my mom eventually had to escape with the three kids, barely her life. And we shot up to the state of Michigan. So we kind of had this, even though it was volatile, my father, had a good inheritance. And I didn't really fully understand. It was a facade at the time. So things were seemingly good, even though I could feel some tension. And then it just seemed like overnight when that experience, really tragic experience happened, the rug got, swept underneath. And there we were, like literally 2 days later, shipped off to the state of Michigan. And thankfully, by the grace of God, I had a grandma who was able to take us in, very humble, roots for the following 10 years. We stayed with her in a tiny little 3-bedroom house. She had a room. My brother and I shared a room, and then my sister and my mom, they shared a room and a bed for the better part of 10 years. And, our family used to run out of money before we used to run out of a month. And I'm so grateful though, for my mom just doing everything she possibly could, with a bad hand of cards, to take care of her kids. And when I look back at that, even though it was a very traumatic situation to go through, there was a few big takeaways that I think are valuable for your audience. And number one is work ethic. Seeing my mom have, not being in the professional world for well over 10 years, and then have to get scrappy through a very bad situation as she landed on her feet, really instilled in me a very strong work ethic. And I think that's so, so important. We know this to be true, but it's very, very important to share. The second aspect is self-reliance. And this might sound cold, but honestly, it was one of the biggest benefits to go through this experience, and something I've taken with me is that Dr. Josh and your audience here, friends, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming on a white horse to basically sweep you off and gallow you to the promised land. That's just not going to happen. The fact is, if it has to be, it's up to me. And that's the mentality that you need to have. And I learned that at a very young age. I think that was really beneficial. And the third takeaway before I guess I put a bow on this experience, we can continue on, is the value of relationships. And I didn't fully know at the time, but without my grandma and then my mom's additional support, and certainly we had a family unit, but the value of relationships and people, and seeing like that tragic situation, but actually, you know, got exponentially better because that family and relationship support are those three takeaways really stuck with me and to this day. And really, I like to start out my origin story, if you will.
No, I think that's powerful, you know, between the relationships and self-reliance. And I love if it's, you know, if it's up to me, if it has to be, it's up to me. I think that's huge. I've heard that. And I love the line you said as well, is no one's coming to save you in anything, in your fitness, in your health, in your business, and at work. Nobody. Like, you have to own everything. It's your responsibility, right?
Totally.
You know,
and I like to say, I mean, you have people there to support you, you know, to support you in your goals and all that. But human nature, it's interesting. If we're really being honest with yourselves, there is a little internal tug just kind of waiting on the sidelines. Okay, who's coming to like sweep me off my feet and save me? And I'm here to say, no, you have people to support you and you should support other people. But my friends, you have to save yourself.
Yeah. And me, just to share a little bit, like in my starting a practice, I started working with my father, but in the practice, you know, like I had to find patients and get, you know, do all this marketing and all this stuff. And it's like, people are like, oh, you had everything handed to you. I'm like, I wish. I mean, granted, holy cow, it was a whole lot easier. I'd have to buy a building or rent a space. I had that taken care of. But like actually getting in there, like, it was like, you know, starting off as a young kid, I was like, all right, I can do this. This is not bad. And then going, holy shit, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know,
the marketing, the business acumen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's tough.
I wanted to almost quit a lot of times, just thinking like, well, maybe I'll just like sit on his coattails and just ride it out. You know, be an employee for me versus being an owner in the practice. I thought it might just become easier. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just setting myself up for failure by looking for that easy road. And, you know, that's led me to where I am in my life today as well. So I think it's a powerful thing.
Awesome. Good on you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So let's pivot. Let's talk. I mean, people knowing who you are, I think, is very powerful. So you've done that, and you've, you know, created a company. You were in the fitness industry before. Were you always in the fitness industry? Like once you started working?
No, I wasn't. Actually, I'll give you a high level kind of story there and how that came to be. But when I moved to Michigan, you know, certainly, as I mentioned, my family used to run out of money before we used to run out of a month. And, you know, part of that, or the negative benefit of that, was you had to rely on fast food. It was the staple of our diet. And then, of course, growing up in the Midwest, which is an amazing place, salt of the earth people. But I think we both can agree, Dr. Josh, the Midwest is not the fitness capital of the world. No. So between the financial contraction and then also to just not having that lifestyle, you know, fast food is a staple of my diet. So unfortunately, though, the summer before I graduated from Michigan State, I got an internship in LA, which then ended up turning a full-time job. So I was excited to get out to California, the palm trees, the blue skies, the beaches, all that LA had to offer. But LA is also the plastic capital of the world. So there I was, 21 years old, excited to be there. But also, if I'm being very candid with you, had a lot more dark days than good. I was 3,000 miles from home, not, you know, didn't have any close relationships, had very little professional skills to offer the world. But if I'm being candid and I look back, I didn't have fitness in my life. I wasn't a fit guy. I didn't have the energy, the enthusiasm, the vibrance that really fitness gave me. And really, to put a bow on it, how it all materialized is I lived that way for a couple of years, and it wasn't all lost. I mean, there was definitely some good days, but, you know, being very direct, there were a lot more challenging than good for the first couple of years. But then a fortuitous situation happened, and a buddy of mine that I went to college with moved out to Southern California. We lived together, and Adam was his name, and he wasn't on the cover of Men's Health, but he could have been. He had the six-pack abs, the glistening muscles, the energy, the confidence, the vibrancy, and I really looked up to that. So we lived together. And embarrassingly to admit, it took me a few months to finally muster up enough courage to say, yo, Adam, can you teach me a little about this fitness thing? And thankfully he did. He obliged, but he actually got my commitment. He said, Bryce, you know how many guys at college asked me to do the same and like show them out fitness? How many stuck with it? And the answer was like 0. Yeah. So he said, I need a 90-day commitment on the front end to do everything that I asked you to do. And then after that, you can say, hey, this is not for me if you don't like it. And thankfully did. And really what he did over the period of 2 years, but really condensed version of 6 months, he introduced me to lifting weights. He introduced me to circuit training. He introduced me to clean nutrition, but most importantly, personal coaching and accountability. Because if I look back and I didn't have that accountability, I would love to look you, Dr. Josh, and your audience in the eye and say I would have done it anyway. I can't say that. So that's fast forward when I saw the Fit Body Bootcamp model a couple of years later, because I'm the CEO, but I'm not the founder. It just made a lot of sense to me that, okay, this really training modality, the fitness aspect, it changed my life. I mean, yes, I got the physique I was looking for, but I, had more energy, confidence, enthusiasm. I became the least performing sales rep in my company, all the way to the highest performing sales rep in the company, just because of fitness. And really that's kind of what, shined light and really got me started in the industry professionally.
Okay. That's really cool. So, and I want to just condense one of the things that you just finished with is your fitness, which I'm guessing is going to be the habits you've created, brought you from the worst to the best in a company.
Amen.
Right. So talk a little bit about that, because I know, and in our pre-chat, just thinking about the habits that we create in our lives, like from like waking up in the morning, like those first maybe 30 minutes to then if fitness is involved in that as well, those habits we create can transform everything in our life, not just our morning. Talk about that.
Yeah, of course. Habits are so important. In fact, what I've looked at, this in your practice, really from a fitness perspective, from a chiropractic perspective, we're really in the behavioral change business. I mean, really at a micro level, if you can change and create a habit, which will sustain for a long time in a very positive way, you're going to have a very positive, aspect of your life. The opposite is also true. Like if you form habits that are not serving you, your life is not going to be, strong. So it really all comes down to a foundational level of the habits that you choose. And, to me, if you were to ask me, what is the one habit that I wouldn't trade for the world? And that would be my morning routine to get a workout in. And I literally wake up at 4:00. I drink a ton of water to kind of get the juices going. And then 4:45, I'm in the gym, or 2 days a week, I'm actually at my boot camp locations, but, super early. And I basically get a strong circuit training workout, strength, focus on resistance training, cardiovascular training. And even in a condensed fashion, I work out for a half an hour, each day, but that alone basically sets the course in motion. It gives me energy, confidence, enthusiasm. It stacks win. I keep the promise I make to myself. That builds more confidence. And that really just sets the tone, not only for my day, not only for my week, not only for my month or year, my life.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think, the morning routines are so freaking huge. And we don't realize, and I shared this with patients and maybe even on older shows, but, we wake up in the morning sometimes and we stub our toe and we're like, like dropping F-bombs and the whole 9 yards. And then we hold on to that morning, that energy, right? And we just take it, and our whole day is like complaining, it sucks, realizing that was just an event. It shouldn't be the start of your day, but we take that with us. So like the positive side of it, you take that with you. Like you said, for fitness, I'm a 4 to 4:45-ish morning guy as well. We take it with us. Like my patients, my team that works in my practice goes, why do you get up so early? I'm like, I gotta get it done. If I don't do it now, I leave for the office at 6. I'm not going to get it in when I get home at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I want to be with my wife. Like that's the choice. I do cold showers, the whole 9 yards, but it has to start. Otherwise you can't finish well. So
totally. I could not agree with you more. And it just sets the tone for the day. And really also too, it clears that mind and kind of creates space, because then the world comes and the world's knocking on your door, and you have to be cool, calm, and collected to be able to handle that. Of course, to your point, if you want to have a positive day and a positive outlook on things.
Hey, we're giving you a short break here, where you can head down to the show notes or lifestylelocker.com and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You'll be the first to know about new shows, events, product launches, affiliate specials, and more. And now, back to the show. Yeah, so let's pivot to the coaching side of your life, because I think this is important. You've become the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. You coach businesses in the fitness world, I'm guessing, primarily.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So what got you started into like, I think I can do this. I want to start connecting with other fitness-based businesses and help them grow. Fit Body Bootcamp, help them grow. What was the draw? Like, why do you go towards that, and why are you still doing it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a roundabout way answer, but I'll lead into that. But I give a keynote called Pain, Passion, and Purpose. And really people are trying to find the purpose. What are they called for? And my call to action, at least what it's I've experienced, but also many other people that I've experienced as well, which I think is grounded in human nature. If you look back at like the most painful, situations in your life, and if you've overcame them, learned from them, and got better from them, that pain actually develops into a passion and can be your purpose. And for me, it was fitness. Like, I was an insecure guy, didn't have energy, confidence, enthusiasm that I do today, which I shared with you a second ago. But when I went through my own fitness transformation, I mean, yeah, I got the physique I was looking for. I actually started and ended at the same weight, 175 pounds, both versions. But I just stripped down body fat. I put on lean muscle. But it does way more than that. It literally changed the trajectory of my life. So that's actually why I got so inspired from a fitness perspective. And I started as my coaching career, I guess you could call it, as a fitness coach. So I went through that experience and I thought, okay, well, hey, other people are in pain. I can actually help them as well. And then, after I went through that experience, I got certified through National Academy of Sports Medicine. I decided, okay, I'm going to, train some people, some clients in the nights and weekends. Never in a million years did I think I can make a fitness career as a coach a full-time gig. So I did that for a little while. And then I think I updated my Facebook profile to certified personal trainer. And when I did, I started receiving ads from this business coach, a guy named Bedros Keuilian, who is a friend, a mentor, a business partner of mine, who's actually the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. And this is back in early 2012. Okay. And once I started kind of following on, his basically guidance and insights about opening a fitness business, how to get clients results, how to get more clients, et cetera, I then took the first leap of faith. And while I'm the CEO now, I actually started as an owner within our brand. So I launched my first location at the end of 2012 and certainly had trials and tribulations. And anyone, an entrepreneur listening to this, this to be true. Yep. That's just part of life and part of the friction that we work with. But I also had a lot of success. And that was because I tapped into Bedros, or B, we call him for short, his coaching. I followed the playbook. I took massive action. I joined his mastermind. And over a period of 5 years, I ended up growing and scaling to a handful of locations. I brought my family involved. And that was my first 6 years as in the coaching business, but it was fitness perspective. And really to kind of come full circle and answer your initial question, how I got involved in the business side of it was in 2018, when Fit Body Bootcamp was really starting to hockey stick and adding, hundreds of locations to our brand. Bedros reached out to me. And at that point, and kind of going back to the relationship message that I, started my story with, because of my strong relationship I developed with Bedros and vice versa, and I took action against his coaching and I had, a lot of success. He knew that our brand needed some owner presence mindset from a headquarters perspective. And he, fortunately enough, he reached out to me and he offered me the VP role. And at first, actually, he always gives me a hard time. I did not say no, to let the record be clear. However, I'm a hard charging entrepreneur. So I didn't say yes either. I actually set up a few meetings over the course of 2 months just to explore the opportunity. And then it came to me and it was like, okay, my vision was to actually open 10 locations and have a big impact from fitness, in the fitness community. But I can actually probably do that better from a franchisor perspective, which are hundreds of locations. And now my focus will be shifted away from coaching our clients on a day-to-day basis from a fitness perspective. Yeah. Now, I'm still going to do that to some extent because I still have one location. I condensed because my role being overseeing the brand is taxing, as you would imagine. Yeah. But then I thought to myself, you know what? I can actually serve more people globally if I actually focus in and teach coaches and trainers and owners from a business perspective. So that's really when that situation happened. Cool. And to put a bow on it, that was in 2018. And after a few years of taking action and building infrastructure, our founder decided, hey, Bryce, you're the guy for the job. You passed the baton as CEO, and that's kind of how it all came to be from the business coaching side.
That's neat. So, I think that's great. Like you were very intimate, like in that fitness world with, your own experience, actually having multiple locations. And I imagine you bouncing around. I know I have many patients that own the franchises of like like restaurants and all sorts of things. And they're like constantly in cars bouncing all over like certain states. I'm like, God bless you, man. That's that's intense. And I love, that you've kind of weird and cool at the same time. You're like, wow, I realized that I can help a lot more people, which is your main mission. And there's a quote by the guy one of the developers of chiropractic that says, you never know how far reaching something you think say or do can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. That's a guy named BJ Palmer. And I mean, essentially that's what you did. You're like, okay, I'm looking at, even though it was big, in the big scheme of things, it was small, right? Totally. 10 locations. Totally. Like hundreds of locations, that's not even like a little thing. That's a huge thing. That's, and that's taking on the headspace of helping, hundreds of locations transform millions of people's lives in, like lightning speed. Like every day this is happening, right? Whether you want it to or not, whether it's happening or not, it's happening. So like that is that's happening from a business perspective, but also a huge health perspective. And I want everybody listening, whether you're in the space, like whether you want to start like a Fit Body Bootcamp, like a franchise, or if you're in the fitness world and you want to know how to reach more people, you got to start to think, laterally, right? You're not always just charging forward. You got to go like, what are the opportunities? What are the relationships that I have? How can we make this better and bigger and impact more people around the world? Because like we said in our pre-chat, the less people that we have getting into the sick care system, the better. And they're going to do that by eating well. They're going to do that by moving well. They're going to do that by having a good headspace. And in my experiences, going to gyms which have coaches, I always performed better as an athlete, but also in the gym space, I always performed better, worked harder, got better results when I had a mentor or a coach, kind of giving a little nudge. And it's, kudos to you, man. I mean, you've made a great place in your own life by transforming lives of others. I think that's very powerful.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate that. And to your point, though, humbling myself, you're right. Like the vision seemed like 10 locations. That's incredible. But when I took a step back, it actually is minuscule. I look at the greater good. And I think the big message that I want to share with your audience on that is you have to have vision to be successful for your life. You have to have, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, whether it's life, you have to have a vision, like a roadmap that, you set out that you're really excited to achieve. But in the same token, you got to be a little flexible. So you have to have a North Star, but you also have to realize that, okay, maybe your initial North Star is the general direction, but you actually might have to make a pivot or adjustment to actually reach your full potential. So vision with flexibility equals maximum success.
That's very powerful, and I'll say I suffer from like the nose down, like going forward. And it might, I'm more of an introvert when, obviously I run a podcast here. But I'm like we call like an omnivore. Like when I'm around my own tribe of people, I'll bounce around a party, if you will, but I'm not the person to like just keep reaching out to people. And in my self-help, journey, if you will, like doing this has made me a much better relationship person, like having these conversations. And I think I've had more impact to more people by being able to share like amazing messages like yours. Because I think, whether someone is looking to start a business or whether someone's like, holy cow, this guy went from an out of shape, unhealthy, fast food eating guy to being a CEO of a fitness company. Like that doesn't even make sense in my head, but I think it's so cool because I see transformations all the time and so many people that I interview. So kudos to like huge changes in people's lives and in your own. And what's your favorite thing? I know you're still doing circuit training. What's your favorite movement, favorite exercise, favorite group of exercise? Like, what do you love to do? Just love it a little bit here.
Yeah, no, totally. What I would say for me, I love to sweat. I love the feeling of like exhaustion. So for me, my favorite, not only program modality, but like you asked my favorite exercise, my favorite exercise is a burpee push-up. And the reason this is when I do a burpee, I mean, your body's moving, right? Like your cardiovascular system's on fire. Like I leave that exercise like a hot, sweaty mess. But also when you throw a push-up in, you're building resistance training as well with my shoulders and upper body as well. So it's like a perfect blend. So that would be, I guess, my specific exercise. But I love circuit training. And also too, like to your point earlier, and I didn't hit this, but I'm like the laziest, most driven guy ever. I work out in the morning because to your point, at 6 o'clock in the evening, there's a million excuses why it's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. So I make sure to get on it really early. And also too, I don't work out more than a half an hour. I do half an hour circuits, like really, really, strong. And that just sets the tone for the day. So I give you a shout out, one, for being an ultra marathon runner, and then switching gears in terms of like personal growth and all that. Never in a million years, obviously from our short time having a conversation, where I think you're an introvert, you have like the most colorful personality. But I think also that the learning lesson to your audience is like any skill is like, we humans are malleable. We can learn and adapt. And that's also a really big takeaway as well.
That's really powerful. So being that you love burpees, like if someone's just starting into the fitness world, like I'm pumped, I want to like start working out, I want to start moving. Would you say like a burpee would be a good place to start, or would you say like start somewhere else? I love burpees. I hate burpees as well. When I was in the CrossFit world doing like hundreds, it was almost like punishment type of, workout, but it kicks your ass completely. So what would you recommend for like, okay, I want to start today? Like what would be a great way just to like get a little sweat on in a short period of time?
My real answer is going to be hire a coach, because most people are not, and that's okay. Human nature. Like, I need coaching in a lot of that area of my life, but typically speaking, most people are not fitness professionals. They're not sitting behind their computer at work being like, I can't wait to design the best workout that's going to crush me today, or design like the clean nutrition plan that's going to get six-pack abs. It just doesn't happen. So if you want to increase the probability of successful long-term, start even 3 days a week. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be, go all in at seven days a week to start. You'll eventually get better, but hire a coach, commit to 3 times a week. That alone will actually set you up long-term. But to answer your direct question, if you're saying, all right, it's inspired, I'm going to hire a coach next week, I need to do a workout today, I would literally do a 20-minute circuit of push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, and squats. Just do a minute circuit, take 15 seconds rest, and cycle that over for 20 minutes. That would be a great foundation to start.
Yeah. And then take a picture of your shirt and post it, but you're going to be soaked.
Right. People, when they come to me, it's like 30 minutes. Your sessions are only 30 minutes at Fit Body Bootcamp. I'm like, honestly, give me 15 minutes with you and you'll be dying.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done some circuit training in the past, and I still do. I'll call it HIIT training, like that type of training, as an ultra marathoner. I do lift. I mean, like in between calls, I have, kettlebells and, stuff floating around. So I'm always moving. But I think that's powerful. The coaching, finding someone that's going to help you, but 15 minutes, people don't realize, like I do things for long periods of time. That's just my personality. Like what I'm good at. That's like my skill set right now. Right.
Yeah.
If I went and showed up at, with you at your gym and you put me through 15 minutes, I'd probably be smoked. 30 minutes, I'd be smoked. Where the same thing is, I go run 22 miles at 30 miles and have that same 15-minute, 30-minute experience. So for those of you that are really like looking to dive in, take some advice from a pro like Bryce. It's, he's the one in the fitness world. Like I can point you in a lot of right directions, but this guy will get you launched in the right direction. So Bryce, like, let's finish up the audio portion here. Where's the best place for people to connect with you, whether they're an entrepreneur or whether they're like a fitness enthusiast?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'm going to give you our company website, which is simply put fitbodybootcamp.com. I also have a podcast called the Fitness Franchise Podcast. So if you just hit the URL Fitness Franchise Podcast. And lastly, to continue to serve your audience, like on more intimate nature with all social media, and all of my sites are linked there, but my social media handles are on Facebook, on Instagram, and LinkedIn are real Bryce Henson, not to be confused with fake Bryce Henson, but that's where you can find me.
Yeah, don't look for fake Bryce Henson. No, the real deal here, the real Bryce Henson. Brother, this has been awesome. You've dropped a ton of value. I appreciate you for doing that. And I just want to let everybody know, make sure you head over to lifestylelocker.com, find this link, find this post, I should say, on this for the show. You're going to get the second part. We're going to dive a little bit deeper in the video only section. So Bryce, appreciate you, brother. You got it, Dr. Josh. Appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Human Powered Life podcast. Make sure to head over to lifestylelocker.com to check out all the details on the show and to watch part 2 of this episode, which is only in video format. We also have this audio portion in video format if you want. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, for the Human Powered Life podcast, and I'm looking forward to staying connected with you as a Human Powered Life hero. Remember to join the tribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.